So it was a challenge because, hello, it was meant to be a challenge. It is called the Get Minimal Challenge. I did the challenge. And of course, if I had to do it today, I would do it very differently. It would look completely different. But what I remember is the struggle at the time to think of a composition completely devoid of props. I don't know how you feel about it, but if I told you you cannot have any props in a photo, only the backdrop is allowed. Other than that, you basically have to go propless. How would you feel about going propless?
This is your host, Dyutima, but you can call me DJ. And I love to inspire food photographers to dream. I spent 15 years as an architect studying buildings and constructing hospitals before taking the biggest leap of faith of my life, which was setting up a food styling and food photography business right from scratch. If you're a dreamer like me, wanting to start a new photography business or grow your existing food photography business, jump right into a world where I share practical, actionable strategies to improve your photography skills, to work with clients, make more money, all with a fearless mindset. This is the My Food Lens podcast, and we take you one step closer to your dreams. So let's go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the My Food Lens podcast. And I think you're going to absolutely love today's episode. It's either going to make you feel very empowered, or it's going to make you feel very creative. You're going to want to try something out of the box, or it's just going to leave you with some tricks right in your hip pocket. So whatever that may be for you, I think you're going to absolutely love this episode because we are talking about how to work without props, how to take a food photo when you have no props. Well, it takes me right back to 2018. And I remember one of the leading photographers in our food photography world, she was running an Instagram challenge. Now, I still remember that challenge because I found it incredibly hard at the time. It was no joke. I still remember, gosh. And I know that, if a similar challenge comes up, now, even after like so many years of me having an experience of working in different kinds of environment, different kinds of photos, different kind of clients, I definitely think it'll still make me pause. Really. Maybe I won't sweat like I did back in 2018, but it's definitely not something that I'll be like, oh, piece of cake. I got this. No. So that challenge that the photographer was running on Instagram was the Get Minimal Challenge, where we could use no more than 2 to 3 props in our photo. And the props included the backdrop, and it also included the dish in which the food was served. So, inclusive of backdrop, inclusive of the serving dish, plate, bowl, whatever, we were not allowed more than like total 2 props in the photo. So basically, we were screwed. We were also encouraged to not use any props at all. So, what if you shot without the serving dish? Gosh, now you have to remember that we are talking of 2018. 2018 is not like 2025. All right. Food photography looked really different at that time. Things were very different. Artificial lights were a novelty, and hard light was, I don't know, we had not even heard of hard light. And, it was the era of those decorated smoothie bowls. You know what I'm talking about, those floral blue, pink smoothie bowls. They were just going absolutely viral on Instagram. And there were actually very few food photographers at that time who were sharing any educational content. Now, that's completely different from today, right? Like, Instagram is different, food photography is different, how we see things are different. If you look at another pink and blue smoothie bowl, you'll be like, oh, come on, think outside the box. And at that time, that was outside the box. So that was a challenging time. That's what I'm saying. Because information was limited, exposure was limited, and just, everything was different. So it was a challenging time. And, relatively new creatives, people like myself who had limited experience at that time, we did not have much help because there was limited examples. There was limited inspiration. That's what I thought. Okay. Maybe your experience in 2018 was different. But for me, everything was limited. Everything was new. I was really in a very, very like novice, just entered the industry kind of phase, which meant that, there were very few photographers who were actually shooting in minimalistic style. So it meant that the examples and the inspiration were very limited on social media. Okay, so if you had to like quickly go and look for, oh, let me check out this person's work and let me see if they've done any work without props, you were probably going to have zero examples in front of you. So it was a challenge because, hello, it was meant to be a challenge. It is called the Get Minimal Challenge. I did the challenge. And of course, if I had to do it today, I would do it very differently. It would look completely different. But what I remember is the struggle at the time to think of a composition completely devoid of props. I don't know how you feel about it, but if I told you you cannot have any props in a photo, only the backdrop is allowed. Other than that, you basically have to go propless. How would you feel about going propless, right? Maybe you're confident, or maybe you're thinking, oh my God. So, what if then I got like really specific with the subject that you could shoot? So, you had limitations on props, you had to, use limited props or go propless. And then also you had to shoot a certain kind of food. Would that make you pause? Would that make you think? How comfortable today, how comfortable would you feel about being like, piece of cake, or, oh my God, I'm sweating, right? So most of us, and I'm just talking about most of us, would pause and we would have to think of a game plan. It's not something that will just come like intuitively to us. Or even if you're very confident, maybe you are used to that kind of style of photographing. Either way, today, I want to share with you two very easy ways. No, two easy ways. I won't say very, but two easy ways to work with a particular food subject if props are limited or you have no props at all. And what you'll find interesting is that these two ways that I'm actually going to share are the exact opposite of each other. Like it's just, oh, okay, fine. I'll just tell you. But I think that these are just going to become your go to ideas. And that's what I want. I want you to be able to think on your feet. And I want you to be able to, just feel that, gosh, I'm not sweating. Okay, fine. I know exactly how to deal with something as challenging as this. And it can be for your personal project or even for a client project. Sometimes clients don't want a particular prop or they don't want props and they're going for a certain style. These are very good ways for you to showcase powerful photos by having tricks in your hip pocket. Okay. So, the first way to work without props is to tap into the power of many. Now, props are limited, but not your food. So, remember, when we are talking about photo, tap into the power of many food. If you have a cookie, or let's say you have a cake and you need to photograph without props, simply take 5 or 7 cookies or even more number of cookies of that food and just place it really creatively on your backdrop. Now, use many number of that food and can use your composition guides to help you with the placement. Now, you can either make a composition look very geometric or you could go completely natural and play around with the composition. Your composition guides, if composition is something that you're not always sure about placement, then your composition guides are just going to be your best buddies. Use them and plonk that food onto the backdrop. And you can either go completely geometric or you can make it natural, totally up to you. But use more number of food or many slices of cake or many number of cookies to create that interest in your photo and to make it look striking so that it doesn't look lackluster, so that it doesn't look like, oh, it's missing something. And I mean, what is the role of props? Think about it. It's to make your photo look interesting. It's to basically create and complete a story. And adding more food or adding more number of food actually creates a sense of abundance. It creates a sense of abundance. It flows the viewer's eyes. It takes the viewer's eyes around the frame. And while you might have worked under constraint, You might know that, oops, I didn't have any props. Oh my God, this was such a challenge. Trust me that the viewer would have absolutely no clue of what the challenge was. The viewer won't even realize that there's anything missing. For them, it would still be an absolute visual treat. The photo would still draw them in, and the story would still be complete. So, when you are posed with a constraint of props, use the idea of having many number of food or many food subjects placed creatively and strategically directly on your backdrop. Now, we'll talk about serving dishes and we'll talk about all of that a little bit later. But what I want you to just focus on right now is think of a plain backdrop. It could be whatever backdrop you want, and think of your cookies or your cake slices directly on the backdrop, and think of getting really creative, about using many slices and creating a kind of a composition that looks artistic, but at the same time, it is serving the purpose that it is meant to serve. So, whether it's for a client or your personal project, it still serves that purpose. Now, the other way to work with a propless concept, it's a propless concept, is to work in the exact opposite way. And I just find this so fun. Okay. And just like you tapped into the power of many, right? That's what we did in strategy number 1. Strategy number 2 is to tap into the power of one, the mighty single, the standalone superhero. Oh, okay. Basically, it means using one piece of the food or one bowl or one item and really showcasing it in all its glory. I will say that this would probably work better for food that has beautiful details. Like, for example, if you have a slice of Black Forest cake with cream and chocolate shavings and a shiny cherry on top. I mean, there's really so much to zoom in on, and maybe the swirls of the cream, the way they capture the light and the shine on the cherry, the highlights, the specular highlights there, and the shadows in the chocolate shavings. Like, I can totally imagine that slice just being shot by itself in all its glory and just being like everything that you would want to see in a photo. No, you don't need anything more except just seeing those glorious details. So much to really zoom in on, right? So go macro and make any viewer literally like just go bonkers by creating a minimalistic photo of just one slice of that cake. You really don't need any props. In fact, for something as beautiful as this, even if you have props, maybe just showcase the, beautiful details, chalk the props and go into the details. It would be such a masterpiece photo. You'll create something so magnificent. I mean, you would love it. You would want to have it framed. A magazine would want to have it published. And I can totally imagine how it would like blow up on social media as well, because we just absolutely love getting lost in details. And so why should props stop us from unleashing that, creative side or unleashing that side of food itself? So even if it's something, by the way, even if it's something not as fancy as maybe a Black Forest cake slice, even if it's bread or a cookie or a fruit, there are always details in food that can be captured at a macro level, that can be zoomed into and that can be shot in a way where you can really feel the texture and the taste that is being conveyed through those details. Those can be like crumbs. You can have seeds. Like if you have a fruit, you can literally have seeds on the side. You can also have juice or something like strawberry. You could just have a little bit of juice on the side and or pineapple. It could just tell such a powerful story. I mean, that's what makes viewers drool, right? And as food photographers, our number one job, and number one responsibility is to make the viewer drool. That is the purpose of every photo. We want it to look appetizing. We want them to salivate. We want them to want it, desire that food. Okay. Now, if the food subject is very, very plain, maybe using strategy number 1, which is the power of many, might work better. So just remember that you always have 2 very contrasting but 2 easy ways of creating beautiful, magnificent photos without any props at your disposal. You can either tap into the power of many or you could tap into the power of one. It's easy peasy tricks in your hip pocket. You should never sweat over this. Basically, no matter which environment, like suddenly if you're in a client shoot and suddenly this thing, oh, I don't like this prop. Can you remove that plate? Oh, that fork doesn't look good. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. But, I know we agreed on this concept, but I just feel like we don't want these props. Can you make something a bit more interesting without the props? And what do? You'll be like, of course, I got this. No sweat, no problem. You're a master because you know exactly that you can either tap into the power of one or tap into the power of many. Now, I've talked a lot about like different examples like cookies and cakes, and they are more obvious. They are more obvious for me to be able to explain these concepts to you. But let's say you have a curry or you have a beverage. Come on now. Now, you would not have it floating around on the backdrop, right? That's common sense. So that's why I did not choose them as an example. You would obviously have your beverage in a glass and you would obviously have the curry in a serving bowl. So you would probably not have to count that as prop because there is no other way to serve it. There is no other way to do it. So if you have a food constraint or a subject constraint, please take that into account as well. Don't count the backdrop or that particular serving dish that you really can't get rid of as a prop. Other than that, of course, don't add any more props. Don't add any more like embellishments like spoons and napkins because you also know that you don't need it to create a powerful photo. Really, all of this depends a lot on the food subject, but you know what I mean. You know what I've been getting at. So the idea is to leave you with empowerment, leave you with quick ways to think on your feet, no matter when the challenge arises, so that you are always, always prepared. In fact, just to spice things up. Okay, here's an idea. I just thought of this. Just to spice things up, why don't you just have some fun and try doing this in your next photo? So, whenever you're shooting for yourself, where you don't really are, doing it for a client, probably just try going propless, zero props, choose how many props are just most critical and necessary. Without that, your photo just falls. And then create 2 photos, one with many and one with one of that food. Just try out these 2 strategies and see how much fun you can have with it. I swear to God, like change your backdrops. So for the power of many, use one backdrop, and for the power of one, use another backdrop. And just see how your creativity flows. Sometimes we just need a little bit of nudge to shake things up. And I know that we are all a little bit like creatively fatigued, and social media is, doing its own bonker games. So we are just a little bit out of, we don't feel things the same way, Our community feels differently, the platform feels differently. And so a lot of us feel fatigued, Why don't you use this opportunity to bounce back a little, to just play around, to have fun, to remind yourself that you started doing this because you enjoyed it. So if it's a challenge for you, that's amazing. You'll have practice. And if it's not a challenge, just have fun with it and remind yourself that no matter what is put in front of you, you are still a master creator. And who knows, you might actually fall in love with that style. Who knows, you might actually never want to shoot with so many props again. I really wish that someone had told me this way back. I wish I had these strategies in my hip pocket. In 2018, when I had to do this, that challenge, I had really struggled. And also, if someone had told me at that time, I would have probably not have half the props that I have lying in my cupboard. And maybe my husband would have had a little bit more wardrobe space. Gosh. All right. So I think you must have absolutely loved this episode. Go shoot without props. Tell me all about it. And spend 1 minute to just drop us a rating on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or wherever you are listening. We'll be so, so grateful. And let's say you had too much fun or you were stuck in this exercise. Feel free to drop me your thoughts and your questions. Just shoot me an email on hello@myfoodlens.com or DM me on Instagram at Dyutama_myfoodlens. I'll see you next week with another episode. Until then, bye-bye.